the coronavirus has prompted a surge of e-commerce transactions, and online retailers are also getting more creative with their offerings. You can now buy a coffin for under 5,000 Rand from online retailer Takealot. Let's discuss this then with AVBOB General Manager Pieter van der Westhuizen, who joins us now for a conversation. Pieter, thank you for talking to me. So death is part of our reality, as human beings, and it does come with costs. Takealot has now advertised that they can sell a coffin. It will be free delivery, but it's not returnable or refundable. There'll be no refunds in the event of dissatisfaction, etc., those kind of details. What do you think of this offering coming from Takealot, the online retailer?
Yeah, I mean, initially I thought it was a marketing ploy because, most undertakers will not allow the customer to bring their own casket or coffin for the service. We really encourage customers to buy funeral wear from a reputable funeral service provider. We manufacture, as AVBOB, we manufacture our own caskets and coffins in Bloemfontein, and we use that for our funeral service. The problem is when you are using products that you don't know the origin of or the quality of, is that if something goes wrong at the funeral, and let's take the bottom falls out, people will not know where the coffin or casket came from. They will just say that the company delivered poor service, because your mourners, they're not part of the arrangements. So we totally not encouraging buying coffins and caskets anywhere else but a reputable service provider, funeral service provider for that matter. The other question I had is, where are you going to store it?
Yeah, go ahead. You're saying you have a question about where they're going to store it.
Yeah, the next practical arrangements are, now it gets delivered to your doorstep. Where are you going to store it? How are you going to get it to the funeral parlor for the coffining to take place when you need it? And I don't think people think of their own mortality like that you are buying a coffin in advance and store it. You might find people doing that, but they are far and few between. So honestly, like I said, I wasn't sure whether that was serious or was it.
Well, I would imagine, though, Pieter, that you probably buy it after someone has passed on, because they do promise that delivery is 2 to 5 days in Johannesburg and in Cape Town. And I imagine that if someone is, a relative who's passed on is at a funeral undertaker, the body is already at the funeral undertaker, I would probably give the funeral undertaker's address as the delivery address. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that most probably you can do. My response to that will most probably be, we know our customers. Our customers very seldom buy from a catalogue. They want to touch and feel the coffin or casket they want to buy. So that's just our experience. People, you might find here and there a person that wants to do that. But like I said, AVBOB will not encourage customers to bring their own coffins and caskets. We are very particular about quality and the sturdiness of the products we provide. So we will really encourage our customers to make use of.
If concerns about quality are addressed, right, Pieter, and I imagine that they can be addressed, including by yourselves as an industry coming to the party and basically saying that you will inspect these caskets and coffins as they're delivered to you from this external service provider. If those issues are addressed, what is wrong in principle about a person sourcing the casket elsewhere, given the reality that the costs that are associated with funerals are exorbitant, and if I can get it cheaper elsewhere, that helps the family, doesn't it?
Well, it will help if the cost is lower. I'm not so sure. I had a look at the specific product. I'm not so sure it's cheaper than what you will get from a reputable service provider. I can just talk from our company's perspective. We don't make use of external service providers or manufacturers, caskets and coffins. We have our own processes and standards. In principle, I hear what you say. What is wrong with that? Maybe in principle, not much. But I can tell you, until the first time that somebody uses it and there's a problem, that will not be a nice experience. So. Sure. Yeah, and I maintain we will encourage our customers to buy the products from the reputable service provider.
But would you agree with me, though, that there's something to be said, or perhaps at the very least a conversation to be had about the costs that are involved in running funerals these days? Because as I saw that casket that is being sold on Takealot, I imagined that elsewhere it probably is sold for far much higher. And I then saw some comments, and in fact one article that was saying that the same casket is actually priced even cheaper by another online retailer that is not Takealot. So perhaps there's something to be said about the industry and how these necessaries for funerals are priced.
Yeah, I'm not so sure whether the funeral industry is so expensive, but it's what customers demand that drives costs. So, I mean, if you as a customer want, let's argue, 6 family cars, and there's a cost associated with that, that's going to inflate the funeral cost. So people are spending a lot of money on funerals. But like I said, we're not there to tell customers what they should spend their money on and what not. I think the responsibility for industry is to make sure that customers get value for money, not to determine how many products and services they must have on a funeral. Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said of people exploiting customers. Like any other industry, I think that's not good behavior from any reputable business. But once again, as long as the customer gets value for money, I'm happy. But we can't push customers to buy or to buy less than what they really expect to have at a specific funeral.
Pieter, a final point. The health MEC here in Gauteng giving some figures about mortality rates this year and basically suggesting that we are seeing more people die compared to last year, and I think the figure is somewhere between 15% and 30% that he cited. I stand to be corrected on that figure, but by all accounts, him suggesting that more people are dying this year, and I've seen reports suggesting that some funeral parlors are battling now in terms of capacity to assist with funerals, despite the fact that, of course, that the time that it takes between a person dying and being buried has sort of been reduced significantly during this time of the lockdown and COVID-19. Is this borne out by the reality you are observing as a company and as an industry?
Yeah, I think if you look at the Western Cape sort of shows us what's going to happen. I mean, there was definitely an increase in deaths over the month of June. There's no doubt in my mind that we're going to see. It depends also on how long this spike is going to be. If they say 15% increase in the deaths, you're talking about 60,000 people that will die more than the previous year. Of course, we're dealing more or less with 500,000 deaths per annum. I think industry has the capacity, but like I said before, it depends on during what period we're going to experience these spikes. I think industry is ready. We as a company is definitely ready. We make provision for the worst by converting containers through our factory into temporary mortuaries. So I think we will be ready. I heard you mentioned earlier 1 million graves. I think that's maybe what's available. Whether we will need that, that's a different story. I can't see us going there. But we will experience slightly more deaths. I mean, the other question that begs is how many of these deaths have comorbidities and would have been people that would have passed on in any event. And I think that statistic we still don't have. We know how many has comorbidities, but whether they would have passed on of another disease but COVID is still not clear.
All right, Pieter, thank you so much for your insights there. That's Pieter van der Westhuizen from AVBOB. They're helping us grapple with our own mortality and